There are moments in time that change the course of history. Joan of Arc leading the French army into victorious battle. Martin Luther King delivering his iconic I Have a Dream speech. And now, the Rings of Power, the one show to finally destroy social injustice once and for all. Showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay have masterminded the defining moment of the 21st century in the eternal battle for justice and equality. The Rings of Power is a political powerhouse with more layers of progression than any television production in history. Here's how the Rings of Power cast the evils of racism, sexism, and other isms into the fires of Mount Doom forever. Since the beginning of time, and perhaps even before then, white males have run roughshod over the poor peoples of Middle-earth. Gandalf, the old white wizard, recruiting two working-class pint-sized hobbits to do his dirty work and drop the One Ring into a lava pit, when he could have Ubered his great eagles at any time and destroyed the ring like an Amazon drone delivering a parcel. Aragorn, an 87-year-old white heir to the throne, chasing the affections of an elf more than 30 times his age, even though the whole of existence is under threat from the evils of Sauron. Until the return of the king, he distracts himself with smoking in dark corners of taverns and endlessly running over hills to help the wrong hobbits. When he finally does accept his royal fate, it's too late. The whole of Middle-earth is at war, and everyone suffers, even those who are already dead. Elrond, half human, half elf, and the undisputed leader of the Fellowship, instead of putting together a band of the fiercest, most dangerous warriors Rivendell has ever known, he chooses this group, a hodgepodge of misfits. Hobbits who have never left home before, a dwarf with the eyes of a hawk and the ears of a fox, and an elf who thinks he's in a video game. After spending so much time with real warriors, one must wonder if Elrond was desperate or going senile in old age. The original The Lord of the Rings, like many stories from less noble times, was predictably white and predictably male. The Rings of Power rushes in to rip up the 20th century playbook and forge a new path for literature, the Lord of the Rings, and indeed the human race. This rabble of rowdy white male Middle-earthers, so insecure in their lust to be on top, are subdued with a populist speech from the White King-in-Waiting, Pharazôn. He appeals to their base anti-elf instincts. "For by the calluses on my hands I swear that elven hands will never take Numenor's helm. She will remain, as always, a kingdom of men." In bygone eras, such speeches would have been compared to Shakespeare's St. Crispin's Day. Now, they are rightly recognised as rooted in prejudice. By the end of the day, a modern monarch is back on stage delivering a modern speech to a modern audience. There is a fateful hour in the destinies of men, an hour of judgment, in which each of us, everyone, must decide who we shall be. The Rings of Power reminds us that we have a choice to be an elf-hating white male or a progressive queen of virtue. Arondir shoots the message home. Your people have worked an entire age to earn back their virtue. The sins of the father become the sins of the grandfather, great-grandfather, and several grandfathers before that. There is no reset button, no chance to be judged by the content of your character. You must be judged by what your ancestors did. Bronwyn, the Orc Slayer, agrees. You were right to watch us, because we are destined for the darkness. Perhaps it is who we are, who we will always be. A truly progressive viewpoint. There is no progression past the crimes committed by your forebears hundreds of years ago. In Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, a woman was rarely present, and in the world of dwarves, never, bar for a photograph of Gimli's mother. Look closely and you will see something no woman should ever have to do in 2022. Grow facial hair. While it may be true to Tolkien's original writings, it is far too much for women dwarves in the Rings of Power. Far better to give them strong, independent roles in which they have more screen time than their more important husbands. The singing voice of Susan Boyle and the personality of Shrek. See the orcs in the Peter Jackson trilogy. Now see the orcs in the Rings of Power. A grave mistake has been corrected. The orcs are now completely white, making them much more villainous and much more suitable for audiences today. If they had remained true to their original appearances, Amazon would have had to release the show with trigger warnings. For black orcs, send out a dangerous message. White orcs, no problem. If their whitest shade of pale does not drive home the point, their accent certainly does.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off!
All those in favour of the bold new direction the Rings of Power is taking, raise your hand. One of the most progressive ways to even up the gender imbalance is to shift all the power to strong, independent women who can match any male in combat, courage, or intellect. Galadriel, a woman without weakness, is a shining example of what a stunning and brave elf can be in our modern Middle-earth. She observes a group of feeble men in swordplay. Their strokes fall like the stone giants of the North Moors. The fair lady is not impressed, and all too gladly takes up arms to teach these young, testosterone-fueled pretenders the lesson they deserve. She dodges their strikes like Neo dodges bullets. But this is not bullet time, it's sword time, Galadriel time, a time these men met their womanly match. No man, no snow troll, no Sauron can lay a glove on the one. Swordsmanship is about balance rather than strength. Men may be physically stronger, but they are weaker in every way. The cowardly males gang up on Galadriel, but resistance is futile. All your base belong to Elf. Galadriel is not worth 10 men, or even 100. No number of men can ever compare. She is just as deadly in conversation as she is in battle.
Shut up!
Every time Halbrand tries to speak, she interrupts, cutting off any attempt he makes to mansplain or make decisions for himself. If there is a position to be filled in Middle-earth, it is to be filled by a female. It is only right and proper to have a woman in power in the Rings of Power. Muriel, the Queen Regent, and the only one Galadriel listens to, Princess Disa. She may not have the crown, but she is the one who wears the trousers. Bronwyn, not just chief orc killer, but now chief of her people too. This lady, who has only had 5 minutes of screen time, but more than enough time to be a catalyst for the whole show. It is said that behind every great man there is a great woman, but the Rings of Power does away with that entirely. Now all the great women are in front, and all the great men have gone missing. Young women watching the Rings of Power can take heart and inspiration from Galadriel and her feminine trailblazers. Thanks to them, it is now possible for a woman to dream a dream in 2022. To build a woman up, you must knock a man down, and the Rings of Power knocks them down like Skittles. When the orc threat escalates, Buffy, Bronwyn is ready to pay the highest price to keep her people free. Waldreg, already established as an old misogynist, leads his men to wave the white flag at the first sign of trouble. For a male in modern Middle-earth, it is better to roll over and have your belly tickled than shed a single ounce of blood. The king of the orcs, Aldar, tosses the cowardly male to the floor like the dog he is. No respect, no belly tickled, but you will have to kill your friend to prove your loyalty to the Dark Lord. The weak and pathetic male is more than happy to oblige. When you've got friends like that, who needs Sauron? The populist future king Pharazôn is an inspirational leader and a riveting public speaker. Of the few men with power in the Rings of Power, he looks promising until the real truth is revealed. Behind the scenes, he is hatching a plan to permanently make elves subservient to men. Such treachery and skullduggery makes Iago from Othello look like Samwise Gamgee. Males in the power seat are not to be trusted. We need a queen to rule over us. The white male wizard not named Gandalf crash lands into Middle-earth and within days is already suffering an identity crisis. I'm peril. The female Frodo assures him that he's not a peril. I'm good. You're good because you're here to help. The nameless wizard looks less than reassured, for he knows the power that lurks inside a man in Middle-earth. A few hours later, he unleashes his perilous power on the hyenas from the Lion King.
Now that's power.
The transformation into Mr. Freeze is complete. Ice-cold blood runs through his veins, and it is a danger to all those with a warm heart. Women. A noble male in Middle-earth is a rarity. A white one is like finding Mithril. Elrond is a man of virtue and honour. He can do no wrong and is loved by all, including the cuckold dwarf Durin. A promise is a promise. Elrond promises that he will keep the Mithril at the bottom of Durin's minor secret, no matter what. Pinky promise. A few hours later, Gil-galad says the elves need it, and the pinky has been cut off. Promise broken, honour tarnished. Elrond and his merry elves are ready to send in the demolition team. Thankfully, Durin, so used to being under the thumb, has no bother for a pinky promise, and thus we see the beginning of a beautiful cuckold friendship. Powerful men in the new Middle-earth are either on their deathbeds or told what to do by strong, independent women. Others are wallflowers or emotional wrecks. The age of men is over. All rise for the era of estrogen. The Rings of Power is a spectacle in social injustice storytelling. Authors of old made the mistake of focusing on the characters, the plot, the eternal battle between good versus evil. Modern and progressive writers Payne and McKay have defied literary convention and by doing so breathed new life into the aging The Lord of the Rings. Now the focus is where it belongs, on the power of stories to make the world a better place. Say goodbye to white males sitting on their thrones or throwing rings into volcanoes. Say hello to queens of virtue and fierce women warriors who can defeat 10 men at once without breaking a sweat. The Rings of Power is the watershed moment of the 21st century, a great leap forward in the eternal battle against social injustice.